KingSithis is now live streaming World of Warcraft. Talk to AnCaps.
All right, what's going on, guys? Sithis here, back at it with another live stream, and today we are going to be hanging out. We are going to be playing World of Warcraft, my favorite game ever. So, yeah. Now let's see what we got over here. Northwind. Ah, yes. The new quests in Northwind. So, I guess while we're here, let's get all... Let's try to get myself into a dungeon. And, yeah. I'll be right back. Give me 1 sec. All right, brothers from another mothers. Now I'm queued for 3 dungeons right now. We'll see if I actually get myself one. Oh, I gotta go this way. Almost forgot. But I actually did the Paladin quest for this character, which is pretty cool. Na 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 na.
Good evening, Sithis and debaters. That Blizz.
Nope, it's not Blizz. It's Turtle.
Now you know me.
How are you? Good? Ghazi Show? Of course I know you. You come into my live stream every day. How could I forget you?
TWOW for the win.
TWOW is definitely the best. They're definitely number 1. I gotta say, I went try to go back to Classic for a bit, but it's just not as good as... Just not as good, you know?
Good. Playing some TBC prep patch. Leveling lock.
Oh yeah, they got the pre-patch going, huh?
How are you?
I'm going pretty good. I'm looking forward to when they add a Classic Plus to when Blizz makes a Classic Plus. No, I can't wait for that.
Same here.
Just wish that they could come out with a Classic Plus, man. If BlizzKiss came out with a Classic Plus, maybe not everything all at once. Maybe as opposed to just moving to TBC, I think what they could have done is they could have just added more stuff to Classic Anniversary. Personally, I think they should have just added new stuff, you know, one at a time, you know? Just add one new zone, one new dungeon, one new this.
KingSithis, we will make you popular. See
Shut up, bitch.
Where are debaters? I want to hear some debates.
I don't know. I'm probably gonna move to a different room, honestly.
That 10v1 was not fair though. They just walked in with a bunch of complex questions, haha.
I still won. They could throw as many of them as they want at me. I don't care. Doesn't bother me. Let's see. Alright, I made a new room. In a different Discord. So hopefully, new people will join. Man, maybe I should sell some of the junk that I have. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff here. I gotta be level 31 in order to wear these pants. I guess I'll keep that. Let's go sell some of my stuff. Anyone I could sell my junk to in here? Probably not. You know
your char lol, I'm leveling lock on anniversary ATM, returning to sell like every 10 to 15 minutes lol.
Yeah. The only bad thing about Turtle Wow is their client. But they discontinued their client update, which I thought was really sad. I think it was really disappointing that they discontinued no more
Blizz got them by the neck, no funds.
yeah. Really disappointed. Because that's really the only thing that's bad about Turtle Wow is the client. Honestly.
What can I do for you?
Bear meat.
Light bless you.
Intact boar eyes.
Need help? Be careful. King's honor, friend.
Damn, it seems like nobody wants to join and debate me. All right, I'm gonna go back to classic for a little bit. And let's check out that pre-patch.
Tell me what is happening there in USA, all this migration stuff. I'm not from USA, I live in EU, just curious, so people randomly deporting or for a fat reasons.
Right now, Donald Trump is just deporting a bunch of people. That's really what it is. So I don't need to update the game. It's already in pre-patch. Where's the anniversary mode? Wait, where is it?
Change to TBC.
Oh, got you. Thank you.
Game versions.
Thanks.
No problems.
All right. Burning Crusade. Do all my add-ons work with this or no? Or am I going to have to reinstall my add-ons? The Burning Crusade.
I think you need to download them, but there were posts that you could like copy classic folder, then update.
All right, let's log into the Paladin real quick and see what's up. Okay, so all my add-ons, everything does not work. Oh! There are new options? Oh my god, am I gonna have to like set up all my new add-ons and all that nonsense? Outland pack. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Retail 6? Oh man. I'm gonna have to... I'm gonna have to Mess with all my add-ons, I guess. But how do I know which one is?
Change to TBC add-ons up there, like version.
Wait, what? It doesn't say TBC. It just says Race Hail 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Something is bugged lol.
All right, I'll scan for games. Oh, hey, what's up, Belle Delphine Defender?
Hey, man.
Doing good?
Yeah, doing all right.
That's good. I'm okay, so Burning Crusade anniversary. I'm just waiting for people to honestly just join in.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm waiting for.
Mhm. Yep.
How anything going on with you?
Not really.
Shit.
Really nothing.
Um I haven't really been doing shit.
Mhm. Yeah.
I've just been waiting for people to join in and
Mhm.
yeah. But nobody's been really joining in, so it's kind of been kind of dead.
Yeah, I see.
Fuck. Anything new been going on with you?
Not really.
No. Shit. I've just kind of been I got talked to my editor and now he's working on my
Mhm.
he's working on my latest
Mhm.
my latest video
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
basically
Yep.
it's gonna turn out really really good. That's all I can
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Wait, if I create a group, how do I create a group that has stuff in it already?
What do you
Move
mean?
to classic. Oh, okay, got you.
Hmm.
Bro, I'm fucking bored. What should we do?
Mhm.
Anarchism.
Um,
Anarchism works to fly. He created a room too.
not his room. He's AFK in there. So,
Yeah, it seems like it's a dead ass night.
yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I created a group, and I moved all my
Hmm.
add-ons there. Fuck. Let's see. Install settings. Okay, cool. At least that's something. Done. Okay, now I can sync. I'm trying to figure out how to move all my add-ons from one place to the next, but I really don't know how. It's weird.
Hmm.
Hmm. Oh, dark mode. All right. I spent way longer than I should have on that. On installing fucking add-ons. Okay. Let's try out my character. Let's see if these add-ons work or not. Interface wide, yes. Oh, isn't that just fucking great? Why can't I move this? What's up with my AI? Oh, UI. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's a dungeon finder? Oh no, but it's not a rant. Oh, okay, got you. I don't even know what to do. Try turning off bartender. Alright, now questy. Can I not move this around? Yes, I can. Okay. Alright, why is my everything look ass? Let's see, graphics. Let's turn every graphic setting all the way up. Low latency mode. Anti-aliasing. Let's put that bitch all the way up. And that's pretty much that. Oh, I gotta turn off down that UI scale. Let's turn that bitch to like 70. Yeah, that's way better. Okay, that's much better.
I can't attack you.
But still, I still have like a lot of settings that are still fucking fucked. Well, most of my settings are okay. What if I just want to go back to classic? Use default map. What if I want the map square? Dark mode. What about Leatrix? Okay, Leatrix Plus. Let's see. Automation. Hmm. There's certain things that I can't do, it seems. So I wonder, are people moving from classic to this, or are people just saying fuck this and staying in classic? Let's check out the classic numbers though. Nah, everybody.
TBC is the best expansion you will see if you play it. It's a prep patch though, still long till 5th of February.
Okay, so everybody and their
It's
mother.
like Classic Plus but in those days, haha.
Okay, so everybody and their mother is playing. So one thing I'm definitely gonna do is mess around with the settings real quick. Anniversary. I want to copy that. Oh wait. Wait, where is this where is classic? Where is the Burning Crusades install location? So I can mess around. Okay, so it's an anniversary. Is it though? What's going on, my brother?
Howdy. Did you try calling a bit ago and no one answered?
Yeah.
All right.
You
I'm
sound
free
different.
now. What do you mean?
You sound different.
I'm on my computer now rather than phone. Could that be it?
Probably. How you doing? Good?
Yes. Yeah, I'm alright.
Want to go debate people, I guess?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was doing that earlier. Uh Danks hopped in, watched me do some debating.
All right.
I've been a little bit getting her to in earlier tonight I was a little bit getting her to come out of her shell and like argue for AnCap stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But just like herself instead of just me doing it.
Yeah. Is she ANCAP now, or?
Yeah, she's AnCap.
That's good. That's good.
She's been having me read her my book.
You should give her, you should send her the video that I made, remember?
What? Oh, you mean the of my book?
Yeah, remember?
She likes my voice doing it though.
Maybe I should turn your voice into audio.
I mean, maybe, but we're kind of using it as a way for like, on one hand, she enjoys me reading it to her, and that was originally it, but on the other hand, it kind of makes me edit my book. Reading it out loud, like I need to edit it anyway, and reading it out loud, it's kind of helping me do that. I'll like stop reading it out loud and instead edit something where I realized I don't like how I said this or something, or could have included a point or shouldn't have included a point.
Yeah.
So it's like helping me refine it, but it's also teaching her this stuff. So earlier she was like responding to a stator tot about, do the protection companies go to war with each other? You may recall that was a whole chapter.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, let's go hop on a... You want to start a thing?
Fuck it, let's do it.
Cool.
Sorry, I my brain turned off for a second. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. Sitting in my car, smoking that cigarette.
That's good. That's good. You know.
Yeah,
Oh. How is Steve here before I'm here?
yeah. I'm a big believer in big tobacco. Okay, it's the one. That's the one anarcho-capitalist thing I believe in.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Right? Think about it. It's all natural, right? And they're telling me vapes are better. That's artificial. That's chemicals. This is a plant. Plants can't be bad for you.
I would like to just donate to Big Tobacco.
Yeah, I do every day.
I actually, the cigarettes I buy are not... I don't think they're from Big Tobacco. It's like a small Florida brand called 305s.
Oh yeah, you can't have that. Yeah, you gotta have the multi-billion-dollar company instead.
You know, recently when I was out of state, I went to Georgia where they don't have 305s. And while I was there, I bought a pack of Newports, which I used to smoke nothing but Newports. Well, Newports or Maverick menthols, depending on how much money I had. And I loved Newports growing up. And trying them recently, I didn't like them so much. I like better the 305s.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm just not a big menthol guy. Like I tried menthols and it just didn't. It was not. It didn't hit right.
You see, that's how it is for me if I smoke a non-menthol.
No,
It To me, smoking a non-menthol defeats much of the point of smoking.
it's probably what you start on, honestly.
No, not for me. I didn't start on menthols. The first cigarettes I ever smoked were cigarettes I stole from my mom. And she smoked Marlboro Ultralight 72s, which are essentially the exact opposite of what I smoke now and what I quickly developed as my preference to smoke. I grew up smoking Newport 100s, harsh menthol.
Yeah. No,
And
yeah.
305s are harsher. And I like harsh cigarettes. I don't like lights.
I don't mind. What's it called? I don't mind harsh. I just the main thing that like does it for me is I just don't like that grainy feeling. Like if it's like harsh on my mouth or whatever, like that's fine, or like on my throat. But if it's like a grainy feeling going into my lungs, I just can't get behind that.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by a grainy feeling.
Like I've it's the same thing with vapes. Like let's say like you remove the filter from a cigarette, right? Like yeah, you smoke without a filter. Even that isn't grainy to me. But whenever I take like a hit of a vape or like I try a menthol, it feels like I'm inhaling chalk. It just isn't fun.
Interesting. I have a very different experience. I don't get the chalk part. I do I will not smoke anything without a filter though, including joints. I'm the nerd that if I'm rolling a joint, I'm putting a filter in it.
Really?
I can't stand a joint or a blunt with no filter. My lips hate it. I guess I'm OCD about it. I don't like little crumbs of wet
That's
plant
cool.
matter. I don't like little crumbs of wet plant matter going all in my lips and in my mouth.
That's fair
I,
enough.
I also don't like my fingers don't like me to smoke something with no filter. Like I don't want to have a roach where I'm either throwing weed away or I'm smoking it down to the fucking like where it's gonna burn my lips and fingers and stuff. Where I have nothing to hold it by. I don't need that much weed anyway. I don't smoke weed much, but I'm very even when in times that I've been an everyday weed smoker, um, I have a very low tolerance. I can take 3 or 4 puffs of weed, and that's plenty for me.
You can get like one of those like fancy 1920s like sticks.
I don't know where to get one. I go to smoke shops and I've never seen one there. Otherwise, I probably would. Um, and it's just but it's a waste of weed too. Like best case scenario is you pull it open and then just put that weed in with the rest of your weed. Now you've got some kind of browned weed in your general bag of weed, or maybe you just put it directly in a bowl and smoke that or something.
Yeah, that is fair.
It's weird. I'm like a pussy with weed, but I go hard with other shit. Like, uh, okay, weed, I'll take 3 or 4 puffs and I'm good. I won't even sit and like smoke a whole joint. Not even close. But I've taken 18 hits of acid, no problem. Um, okay, one time I was tripping balls with my ex-wife. I mean, before she was my ex-wife. And we we had like this pistol safe. And I used to keep drugs in the pistol safe. Like for years, I would just keep all kinds of drugs in the safe so that like my son couldn't get at him when he was a baby and a toddler and stuff. And while tripping, I decided it's time to clean the safe. It had all kinds of just drug crumbs and ketamine crystals and weed crumbs and little chunks of Molly and just all kinds of shit in there. And so I scraped together all the various assortment of drug crumb and dust and stuff from the safe. I scraped it all together into a pile and I put that pile in a spoon and I added a syringe full of water to that pile, and then I boiled it up, and it boiled into a tar, not even a liquid, like a brown tar, and with just like visible crumbs and stuff in it. And I added a cotton to that, and I sucked the tan moisture from the cotton of the general drug tar that must have had at least 5+ different kinds of drugs in it, at least. And I injected that into my body.
My goodness. That's kind of fucked.
That's
So, and I was fine. I got higher, and it was like a mix of different kinds of highs, which I already like to mix different kinds of, I like to mix acid with ketamine, and maybe throw in some Molly if I got a lady with me or something. And so this was more of the same, like more of what I'm used to pretty much. But for my ex-wife, it made her start having a bad trip because she thought I was about to die.
My goodness.
She
I
did
was
not.
gonna joke like you're like, oh yeah, I can't do weed, but meth is okay. Like that's
No,
quickly where
I don't like meth. I've given meth a good
All right, all
college
right, all
try.
right. What does this have to do with anarcho-capitalism?
This should all be
it's a
legal.
free market,
This would all be legal in an ANCAP society.
as God intended.
Yes. To answer your question, I don't like meth.
Say no to Walter. The no,
Walter White Walter White didn't do meth. Now, the only reason I'm not selling meth right now is because my son is fucked if I go to prison. Basically, if I get locked back up, then he would just be raised by his mother, who I do not feel is competent to single-handedly raise him. But I live somewhere that there is a demand for meth. And would be kind of a perfect drug for me to sell because I would never be tempted to get high off my own supply because I hate meth. So maybe
this is in the ANCAP. Any profit is good profit. I would advise against.
Well, so long
that.
as it's not
Mostly-
aggressing.
yeah, we don't think it's good to like sell, sex slaves or fucking, assassination service or something. We don't worship money.
The only reason why I advised against that isn't because it's illegal. It's just because things like pseudo and like methylamine is like heavily fucking monitored. You'd be probably caught. So
I would get those things through darknet sources.
paying Bitcoin or whatever.
Well, or Monero. Like if you use DrugHub, they'll only take Monero on DrugHub. You have to use Monero to pay on DrugHub, which is a good OPSEC measure. That's a pretty good site. I don't know if they actually have precursors on DrugHub.
I will say, I like Monero, but I heard recently it had like that fucking weird, what's it called? It's that one type of attack where it's like they monopolize. It was like some other fucking retard chain, and it was like I don't know. There's like some. It's not even an issue with Monero. I like Monero. It was more just like the whole mining aspect. I think that got fucked up for a bit. I don't know if it's better now, but
Well, if you fuck up the Monero mining, I think the worst case scenario is it becomes more deflationary than it was intended to be, which is a slight complication for everyday medium of exchange purposes, more than a slight complication. I recognize that. It would be nice to see, there should be two kinds of Monero. I think Monero is a phenomenal concept. Stealth addresses, ring signatures, I love it, but they should do two Monero chains. One Monero, as it is right now, where it's a diminishing inflation rate, and another Monero that's deflationary, like Bitcoin. In fact, they could even just match where it's like 21 million, we'll call it Monero savings tokens, and then Monero checking tokens, right? The checking tokens are what we have now, diminishing inflation rate, good as decent as a store of value, better as an everyday medium of exchange. And then the savings token would strictly be a store of value.
That is actually, yeah.
You think it's a good idea?
I
That
think
is
it's
a
a good
good idea.
idea.
I want to live in a world where your uh either your Bitcoin account or like some kind of a, I don't mean account, but your Bitcoin wallet or your, say, Monero savings wallet, or I mean ideally some combined portfolio replaces your savings account, and then Monero as we know it now replaces your checking account, and everybody is transacting in these things, and fiat currencies, the dollar and so on, are essentially phased out, and the tax man starves.
Yeah, I will say out of all the cryptocurrencies, like in terms of like the dream, decentralized and all that, I think Monero is one of the only ones to actually do it. Just because it's like there's a reason why it's not on any exchanges. Um, or I'm not gonna say not any, but like not the big ones. Like it's not like a
Yeah, but
primary.
the big ones are in bed with the fucking state.
Yeah. So it's like that's pretty centralized, It's like shit.
And yet Monero wins. Monero is alive and well anyway.
Yeah. Fuck them.
I love Monero as a concept. There have been other ones that I think are potentially just as good with privacy, but didn't really catch on. Actually, I just remembered. Okay, maybe I wasn't being original when I thought of Monero Savings just now, because there was something like this. It was called Pirate Chain. Fuck, I bought $20,000 worth of Pirate Chain when I heard about it. Um, and now I can't find that fucking Pirate Chain. So, and I really fucking need it. I don't have working water at my house. I'm fucked. I'm broke now. So anyway, so Pirate Chain had a supply cap of 21 million, if memory serves. It's a different privacy technology. It doesn't use, I don't think it used ring signatures and stealth addresses. It was more along the lines of a modified version of like ZK snarks. And I'm not going to pretend to understand that because I don't. I just took the word of, friends of mine that are much more geeky and in the know about this kind of stuff, that it's super private. And so I bought a bunch, and I can't fucking find it. I don't know how to get at it.
You don't know how to pick at it.
I don't know how to find it. I don't even remember what the wallet was called.
I never got too much in, like, I know a decent. I'm gonna say decent as in like a little better than average. Like I'm talking like maybe like 65-ish percentile. You know what I mean? I never got big into OPSEC, mostly because OPSEC makes you, like, good OPSEC will make your computer slower. And for me, that's just
What
a
are you?
fucking
What are you?
that's
Some
evil.
kind of fucking law-abiding citizen?
Well, I just don't do anything bad online. Like
Yeah, then
that's
you
my
don't have to
rule.
worry. Then you really don't have to worry about OPSEC. But I will say this: I don't know if you have any libertarian leanings, but if a lot of crypto people tend to, if you do, then I would largely advise, unless you're very fucking careful and modest with what you'll say online, I would advise keeping a separation between your real space identity and your online libertarian doings.
Well, yeah,
This is
I do that. But I the main thing that, like, I'm concerned about when it comes to online is mostly like software supply chain shit. And like general data broker type stuff. I'm Because mostly I have some spicy takes here or there, but I don't use like Twitter or anything. I don't have a big online presence. I'm just kind of a random schizoid.
well, I wasn't expecting it, but I got no knock rated by the ATF in 2020 when I didn't think I was doing anything. And they hit me because I'm an outspoken libertarian. Of course, they didn't put it quite like that, although they did say the reason they came after me is because I was, quote, running my mouth online. By the way, I was not doing what would seem like the obvious get you raided type things. I wasn't talking about, overthrowing the government or shooting up ATF offices or anything like that. I was doing kind of normal AnCap shit. I would say probably pretty good at it and convincing a lot of people. But, nothing too over the line. I wasn't calling for violence or anything like that. But based on that, they made a ridiculous stretch of the law essentially and found something to prosecute me for, which was I'd had some juvenile convictions. As an adult, I had them all expunged. I'd had my juvenile record sealed, went through a rights restoration process with the court. Despite having a court order plus in writing from 4 lawyers that I'm allowed to have guns, they were able to find a technicality where I was not allowed to have guns. And so they raided my house and prosecuted me based on being prohibited from having guns while having guns.
I think, if anything, that is actually the best argument for like OPSEC type stuff. Then, like,
yeah, I'm kind of I'm like the walking cautionary tale.
Yeah.
I mean,
Shit, bro. If you want good arguments, you came to the right place.
It was bad. They terrorized my whole fucking family. They gave my entire family noticeable PTSD. My 2-year-old son, who they'd grabbed him out of his crib and shook him awake. This was a no-knock raid in the middle of the night. They grabbed him and shook him and fucking terrorized him and woke him up. And for years after this, he was waking up every night, 4:30 a.m. on the nose, at least between 4:30 and 5, which is when they did this. And he was having panic attacks. He would either be screaming and wailing and crying, or he would just be fucking hyperventilating. But consistently, for years, he was waking up panicked at about the time they breached the house. They almost shot my ex-wife. They dragged my ex-wife outside without letting her put panties on. And they after nearly killing her, they smashed everything in our house. I mean, and we thought for years I was going to be going to prison for up to 30 fucking years. So, I mean, it ended up, I'm not going to say directly, but indirectly just destroying my relationship. And, or at least fucking me up enough that I did. And, I mean, this is a fucking nightmare. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
But it seems it worked out in the end.
That is a cautionary tale, though. Because I've said some I think it's probably somewhere on record that well, it's definitely on record because everything's fucking logged. Of where I'm like, yeah, explosives should probably be legal. I have like actual like schizo takes like that, and it would be probably bad if somebody like got a folder of that and was like, yeah, maybe this guy, like, I'm not even up to anything that isn't good, but like from compared to the normal person, I'm definitely a bit off the spectrum.
I didn't think I was up to anything that illegal anyway. I thought I was allowed to have the guns. While they were at my house, they did also find 3 hits of LSD, 2 doses of mushrooms, less than a gram of DMT, less than a gram of hexin, and less than a gram of MDMA. Generally speaking, when you're found with personal use quantities of drugs, you get a slap on the wrist. I didn't think I was taking any serious risk. They decided to call those amounts, by the way, possession with intent to distribute, because that's how the feds work.
God.
They overcharge you, expecting to get a plea deal where they can knock it down to a more accurate charge.
Yeah, instead of like 30 years to life, you're only getting 15,
Not to life.
Really
it was
great.
Not to life. It was up to 30 years.
Oh.
Sheesh, bro. It's fucked up.
Usually when you're found with personal use possession quantities of drugs, especially if you don't have adult priors, then usually either you don't get locked up at all, or if you do, it's a few months. Nowadays,
yeah, I remember when I grew up. This was like around the time I was like 10 or 11 or so. my neighbor, I think he was growing and selling weed from his basement. I think he's still in jail, and weed's illegal here now. Like,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, like full on. Like it was like a raid, and it was literally just him and his roommate. That was the quote unquote operation. But I think there was like what 10 to 15 plants or so. Yeah, it's been a while. So
God, I hate the state.
Me too. If only there was a group of people who advocated for its abolition.
yeah, communists. Trust me, bro.
No!
What?
They're not the only
communists
ones,
are the
bro.
biggest- Dude, they're the biggest anti-state people ever, you know? You just trust
Trolling.
some vanguard party, and, you know, they have control for a couple years, but they'll give it up. Probably. Maybe.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think China, that's working out.
I really hope they give it up.
Yeah, I heard Xi Jinping, he said that he'd give all the power to the people pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
I mean, the Soviets did very quickly. They dissolved their state in 2 years after the Bolsheviks took over.
Russia is like a cautionary tale of like dissolving a state, because like I mean it could go worse, but like it's probably the best worst case scenario, you know what I mean? Like there's no Russian ISIS or whatever, but
When you say dissolving a state, are you talking about the Bolshevik overthrow of the Tsar government, or are you talking
I'm
about
talking
the
about the-
dissolution of the Soviet government?
the dissolution. I'm not familiar with the Tsarist dissolution.
What led to the Soviet Union?
Oh well, I know I just don't know the details.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I mean, neither do I really, but
Yeah.
you could have been talking
I just
about
know that there was a monarchy,
Wait a
and
minute.
then there wasn't.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if you know something I don't. I don't claim to be very well educated on this, but isn't the current Russian state far superior to the Soviet Union as far as like for the experience of the people living there?
Yeah, it's a jump. You know, it's a hop. But it's I my main stance on Russia is it just like, you know, I have a United States background, you know. So my main thing is it's just a low income United States. It's not great, but like could be worse. That's why I said it's
Could
like
be
the
a
best
lot worse.
worst case
I mean,
scenario.
yeah, they could be using propaganda newspapers as toilet paper, as they did in the USSR.
Like,
Did you know about that?
I mean, listen, you know, you got to use paper somehow.
Did they use sandpaper?
That works
They
too.
used
That'll clean it.
propaganda newspaper. I
Really
imagine
gets
that
all the
they did
nooks
not-
and crannies, you know?
This was actually a common thing in the Soviet Union, is they used propaganda in toilet paper was in shortage often, but propaganda newspapers were in abundance because
Are you cutting out, or is
Yeah,
my
he's
Wi-Fi
cutting
good?
out. You're cutting out.
I said this is a kind of a fun manifestation of the calculation problem. In the absence of price signals to allocate resources in proportion to any quantification of demand, resources get devoted to political interests. So people don't have enough toilet paper, but there's plenty of propaganda newspapers for people to wipe their asses with. Could there be a more
As God
perfect?
intended.
Could there be a more perfect representation of the calculation problem than that?
No.
No.
I mean, that's like a gift from God.
I think that the only thing I agree with the Soviets on is they saw like bartending, like drink mixing, as like American like hedonism or whatever, or like Western hedonism, and it was only allowed in like one bar. And as somebody who just drinks fucking like I'm too lazy to mix something. That's the only thing about that state that kind of resonates with me.
Wait, are you serious? I didn't even know about this. Are you saying they had prohibition of drink mixing? Like you couldn't make a
No, like
cocktail?
I think it was there was like I know I, it was like one bar that it was like a tourist bar basically. And they had all these like KGB agents in it, and they had to add a fucking job to their official job list to have a bartender to mix drinks. Like I don't think it was banned, but I think it was just like
So what, they would just drink
kinda like,
alcohol straight from the bottle? Is that what you're saying? They wouldn't mix drinks with
no.
like.
I think like like people would probably do something similar, but like as a profession, it just didn't exist.
But wait a minute. Then who served you your unmixed drinks? Why would that person not be the bartender?
I really
That's a good question.
like the logistics of this is bizarre because I heard like because the thing is I watched like a half documentary on this of where it was like a 20-minute long fucking info piece, and it was just this story about this one dude who really wanted to be a bartender, and he had to like work for like 5 years to be a bartender because there's nothing in that country. It was bizarre. Because you think, like, out of everywhere, like, somewhere would have it. This poor man would have to slave away 5 years. But, no. It is bizarre to me.
It's too bad.
Yeah. Zake.
You know, back in the Soviet Union, there was at one point there was a train that was headed to Moscow, and on that train, a Russian man was sitting next to an American who was visiting, and the American pulled out a wireless radio and started listening to it. And the Russian man looked at that and said, you know, we manufacture more of those than any other country, and we manufacture them cheaper than any other country does. What is it?
Cheap labor.
You know, there was the tale of there was a guy in the Soviet Union who found that his electricity at his apartment was not working, and but the other apartments it was. So he went to the bureaucrat to, you know, request the services of an electrician. And he explains the problem, and the bureaucrat he goes through some documents, and he says to the guy, "Okay, I can get an electrician to your home, but it's going to be in 10 years."
Good day to you.
And the guy says, "Well, wait a minute, it's going to be in at what time?" And the bureaucrat says, well, "What do you mean, what time? What difference does it make? It's in 10 years."
Have a good one.
And the guy says, "Well, the plumber's coming that day."
Because, you know, the Soviet Union was just so terrible.
No, I think, honestly, really, the only real refutation to communism you need is, just talk to a communist and say you want to be a farmer. And ask them the logistics of that. Because you'll get the most insane fucking takes ever. Because, it's one of my long-term goals, as many schizoids, it's a common trap of where you're like, okay, yeah, I want to go and have like a little farm, and you ask them the logistics of where it's like, okay, so let's say I want to be a farmer. They're like, okay, cool, great. And I'm like, okay, what if I hire one employee? And they're like, okay, well, then that's like communally owned. And I'm like, what if I live on it? And they're like, no, that's not that's not right. And it's like, what the fuck? Like literally, I can't even describe it because like I'm trying to like logically think about it, but you will get the most insane fucking retard takes possible.
Wait, so they're saying you can't live at the farm?
It's like I remember like on this Discord, I was talking about like the logistics of this, like where I was like, okay, so like let's say I own 10 cows, right? And I have like I kill one every once in a while, right? And I occasionally I hire a guy to come in and he like guts it or whatever. Does he need like communal ownership? And it's like yes. What? Like at that point, that's like a contractor work. You like and you can kind of see this in like every fucking time. It's like, oh, every single time there's like a communist like fucking government, it's always like that, like an edge case of like that, where there's like proper, real world personal ownership, like kulaks and shit. Like they can't acknowledge that personal property exists. So you'll get some insane fucking examples when you have a real world case of legitimate personal property. Like seriously, like I'm genuinely just start talking about how you want to have a little farm, and yeah, no. That's the thing that put me off communism. Actually, like I'm not even kidding. I'm one of those people where it's like hard to describe. Like sometimes because like I have to get someone's argument to like repeat it. Like I have to understand it, but I don't understand it because it's insane.
It's ununderstandable.
Yeah,
And it's like that on purpose, I feel like trying to understand communism and talking to communists, they're like basically economic creationists. There was these guys that were literally trying to convince us the other day, right? Taxation, that the action axiom isn't true.
Oh. Well, that's what, if you want to refute praxeology, you essentially have to do that. You have to.
But that makes
That's the
no
root.
like I know, it
That's
just
the
to me
root
it just
of that.
seems ridiculous to even I don't know.
That guy, he kept trying to walk away from trying to claim it isn't true, and more so insist that it isn't scientific. And his basic objection was that praxeology is not empirical; it is logical.
Yeah.
And so he was getting to the point of categorically dismissing as unscientific, which is apparently a huge problem. Dismissing as unscientific anything that is logical rather than empirical.
Yeah, like math.
That would be he refused to bite that bullet, but that would be the logical conclusion of that rhetoric.
Essentially, yeah.
like I mean, I used to be like a socialist. This was like when of course, you're like 15 and you just discover socialism. So
Mhm.
obvious progression in
It's
your
okay,
life.
me too.
I never fell
And
for it.
the issue, the reason why I fell out with it, right, is because I do have kind of a libertarian bent, and it does not matter to me whether it's like a state bureaucracy or like a government without a state bureaucracy. You're still living under a bureaucratic shithole. Like I can barely stand filling out forums now. Like I had like a piece of property that I got from my parents. I sold it a while back because it was too much fucking trouble in this state. I wanted to build a 10 by 11 shed on it. I had to fill out 11 forms. I can't recall it because there was a shit ton of it. It was a lot of bullshit. I had to fill out 11 forms, some environmental impact survey, and I got denied by the fucking county for a 10 by 11 shed that you could tear down in a day. And that just completely destroyed my faith in bureaucracy as a whole. That radicalized me. That turned me into a schizoid.
Wanting to build a shed. That's amazing.
Yeah, the issue wasn't even that it was a shed, it was that it wasn't 10 by 10. I wanted it specifically 10 by 11 because it was convenient.
See, where I live, people just build whatever the fuck we want and don't ask the county.
Yeah, what
that's
happened
why
what happened to the good old days?
I
am I
want out
right?
of this state.
I just want to be free. I just want to live free.
I live on a dirt road out in the middle of nowhere and no one bothers us. The only shit we have to deal with is property tax.
That sounds nice.
I mean, I don't like property tax at all. It's a big problem in my life, but
it's a lesser of two evils, you know? Like,
depends
shit.
what the two evils are. If it's one scenario where I have to deal with property tax plus, you know, the building department and a bunch of other shit, then of course the one where it's only property tax would be better. Unless it's a higher property tax, which it's not. It's lower in the country.
I think I would genuinely rather have, like, only property tax if there was, like, no fucking bureaucracy, like, bullshit. Like, I would rather be, like, subject to, like, a property tax. Like, I would rather subject myself to property tax than I would a bureaucratic framework. Any day.
If I could only get rid of either property tax or income tax, I would actually choose to get rid of property tax.
Really?
Yeah, because you know what? You can get around income tax. You can make your money in ways that, you know, the state doesn't get a slice. You can get clever with income tax, but you're gonna live on land.
Yeah, that is true because
Yeah.
once you buy, you know, you land, you have to pay for it forever. You know, even if even if you fully pay it off.
Property tax is the one that makes economic participation in the division of labor involuntary, in a sense, when it could otherwise be fully voluntary. I have to make money. Not based on a natural compulsion to eat. I can just trap raccoons and eat those. I've done that. But the problem is I have to fucking make money to pay the goddamn property tax.
Maybe this is the hot take in the fucking AnCap channel, but if I was to get rid of every tax but one, I would probably get rid of, if there had to be a state, I would probably get rid of every tax but corporate income tax. Because I don't care if Bezos has money, but like he's getting it from like Amazon or wherever the fuck. And why the fuck am I paying taxes when Amazon, you know, they make the money, you know, they drive the economy. Why aren't they paying for like quote unquote protection or whatnot?
Well, emotionally, I sympathize with the sentiment, at least within the framework of if there's going to be taxes. However, an economic problem with that policy would be if you're disproportionately taxing, you know, large concentrated interests, such as a giant corporation, then that means that a lot of investment capital that would have gone into the creation and expansion of new enterprise is now not. Rather, you know, lower level people have more money for consumers' goods, but there are less of those consumers' goods being produced and less demand for what those lower level people can provide. I think redistribution of wealth, and that is to say, I should say simply removing wealth from the wealthiest, tends to make everybody poorer more so than just removing money from the poorer.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that, and I don't care if Bezos has like 5 yachts. Like I'm not morally outraged about that. I just wish there was like a flat tax on like corporate income. That's like my one thing. A flat one, like not even like a big one, just like 2.5% or something.
I have
Probably
an
lower.
I have an alternative proposal. How about only tax government employees?
I love that. Now.
That seems, at that point, can you even complain? Like,
they'd have to do some serious fucking you got to justify it. Like I don't know. I really
No one's gonna want to work for the government. That's good.
obviously, this would not be sustainable.
Yeah, what do you mean it wouldn't be
If you need an
sustainable? I have a
image of this-
10-year growth plan.
If you need to see what this looks like in real life, just go to your like power strip, you know, that's got a bunch of plugs on it to plug shit into, and then take the plug from it and plug it into one of its own outlets.
Oh yeah, it makes infinite power. So that's why we should do it today. Now.
That's essentially, if you only when government employees pay taxes, that's what you're doing. It's kind of retarded that government employees pay taxes. Just pay them less.
Yeah. That is kind of fucked up. I mean, of all the things, but you know that is just fucked up.
Meaning, if it's like you're paying this government employee $30 an hour, but after tax he's going to make $25 an hour. How about just pay him $25 an hour and call it good?
Probably okay. If I'm talking like logistically, like from a state perspective, it's probably just to prevent like easy, what's it called? Like, let's say you're doing something illegal on the side. You'd probably be able to easier catch that if you had like a tax record. But you know, at the same time, it's like they're already doing that.
The government agency that pays him is almost certainly not the same government agency that taxes him. And it's not directly coming from the same coffer. For example, you have a county employee who pulls trees out of the road, and he pays federal income tax. He pays, in most states, he pays a state income tax and so on. He may or may not pay a county income tax. But, you know, it wouldn't actually make sense for the county to just pay him less.
How about the government just be abolished?
Well, yeah, of course.
What do you mean? I love having sales tax with my income tax, with my property tax, with, you know, my I have a vehicle, so that's taxed and registered and indexed and also tabbed, which is a tax. I like having I used to have a firearm, so that was taxed. I like taxes, you know, it's very fun. I like tipping my landlord.
You know,
I think you should tip your landlord.
Tipping your landlord is morally better than tipping your tax collector.
What might give you a boner is that I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and in Baltimore, when I was growing up there, we had a rain tax. They taxed the rain.
No,
I gotta
really?
move there today.
Yes, there was a rain tax. They got rid of it now, I think, but there was actually a rain tax when I was growing up.
They taxed the rain?
Yes.
That's dumb.
That's wonderful. Who's gonna pay for the rain? Without the rain
So
tax,
what, they raised
no more
taxes
rain's
whenever it
gonna come.
rained?
You know, if you think about it,
Who would pay for the rain?
the rain tax is the modern equivalent. It is the technocrat and bureaucrat equivalent of like an ancient rain dance. It's just, it won't come again if we don't do the tax. Maybe that's why they got rid of it. I heard like Maryland has a shit ton of rain. They probably got sick of it.
Well, they need a reason to take more money.
Tax his land, tax his bed, tax the table at which he's fed, tax his tractor, tax his mule, teach him taxes are the rule. Tax his work, tax his pay, he works for peanuts anyway. Tax his cow, tax his goat, tax his pants, tax his coat, tax his ties, tax his shirt, tax his work, tax his dirt, tax his tobacco, tax his drink, tax him if he tries to think, tax his cigars, tax his beers, if he cries, tax his tears, tax his car, tax his gas, find other ways to tax his ass. Tax all he has, then let him know that you won't be done till he has no dough. When he screams and hollers, then tax him some more. Tax him till he's good and sore. Then tax his coffin, tax his grave, tax the sod in which he's laid. Put these words upon his tomb. Taxes drove me to my doom. When he's done, do not relax. It's time to apply the inheritance tax.
Inheritance tax is another thing where it isn't. I don't like it. Like, why would you? Who decided that? Well, I know who decided that, but like, it's like, what the
Fucking
fuck?
commies.
It's like,
It's always fucking commies who support that shit.
and they always think it's gonna be like, oh, we're gonna get Bezos' kids. Like, no, they're gonna fucking. Not only are they gonna get around that, but they probably already own half of the assets anyway. You're just taxing fucking Joe Dickhead with like a net worth of like $65K.
Yeah.
Communists fucking do that. Like, they're like, oh, we're gonna get the big guys. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. But by doing anything, by using some bureaucratic fucking shithole, they introduce like loopholes of where it's like you can get around anything, and the only people who can't get around it are the people who can't afford to get around it. So they just end up benefiting the rich anyway. It's like, what the fuck? Like, at that point, it's like, why do you even target them if you're just going to hurt everybody?
Okay, so I'm not rich, and my family's not rich, but in my family we have figured out the solution to any estate tax and any of that shit, which is that my dad holds all of his wealth in crypto, and I'm in the wallets. So when he dies, they're just my wallets to use now. I'm already in them.
That works.
If I can figure that
That's
out,
smart.
me and my dad can figure that shit out, then certainly fucking, Bezos can figure that out.
What can we do? Be careful. Well met. Be helpful.
I don't know. What's it called? I don't hate the Bezos man. I don't, but I don't hate him, but I don't exactly like him because he makes my life worse. I'm not saying that as like oh my god.
In what way?
How does he make your life worse?
It's the enshittification and like consumer bullshit of everything. It's like that over consumerist bullshit. I hate it.
I love
do.
it.
You're allowed to not patronize Amazon. You don't have to indulge in the consumerism.
Well, you don't have to, but it's like I think the best way to put it is it's like you're living your life without a phone anymore. Except instead of like a phone, it's consumerism as a whole. We all do it to an extent. We all have done. We have like our one consumerist vice. I don't think it's bad as a whole, but when everything is a product, I don't quite like that. It's not great.
I can sell you something that'll make you feel better.
Meth,
Yes.
please.
Meth. Here's the other thing about meth. I never see meth make anyone feel better. I see meth make people worry about different things or worry about more things. Like with meth, people start worrying about, is the table aligned perfectly right? Or is the table slightly askew?
That's because you get bad meth. You need to look for the good shit, Machi. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
You got
I would
good shit
argue
down.
that kind of
Yeah.
meth actually does make your life better. Because I had a neighbor. This is a different neighbor, and he was a meth head, and he worked on his car for like 4 days straight while on a meth bender, And after that, he didn't have car problems for like a couple of years. So it does
Exactly.
improve. You see, it improves your life. You know, you get rid of
Yeah,
your
it does. It actually does. Like, meth has actually changed my life in a good way. It helped me
What an
graduate. It
asshole.
did. I have
Not
a
you.
degree in psychology. I do. I understand the mind perfectly. I do. I can be obnoxious sometimes, but yeah, it helped me a lot. It did.
Did you just say you understand the mind perfectly?
Well, I mean, not now because I'm not on meth now. Do you have any meth?
Listen,
If I
Adderall is
Not
just
on me.
the Adderall is the white mom meth. Okay, you need the what's it called? You need the people's meth.
The people.
Adderall is bourgeois. Okay, we have the common man's meth.
Yeah, but I mean, like, all jokes aside, right? The what they call it, the fallback from there. I can't even. I had some meth the other day, so I'm just trying to get back on my feet now. Sorry. The come down. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, the come down is horrible for meth, and it lingers for like 10 hours. It's horrible. It is.
For me-
So what you
for
have to
me-
do for that, you have to take some more meth. So at least it will, equal it out. You know, you got to think smart.
For me, the entire high is terrible.
Just got to
No, that's
increase the
because you're
dosage. You know
paranoid.
what I mean?
Oh, yes, you can do that as well, King. Yeah, that's a good idea. You can increase the dose as well. Yes, just don't stick anything in your vein. That's like last case scenario kind of stuff. Put it in a foil, you know how to do it. Pipe it up, enjoy. Hey, man, you only live once, right? You got to enjoy it, man.
Yeah, you gotta
Especially if
do what
you're
you
an
gotta do.
anarcho-capitalist.
I don't.
Are you
like
an
it, but I-
anarcho-capitalist?
I am not, but I don't know if I am actually. I mean, I'm more like mixed economy. Look, I'm from Europe, so
Mhm.
like I'm mixed economy type. I own a business here, I do, but I'm not like a full blown capital. Like, what do you mean by anarcho-capitalist? I'm just trying to understand, right? That means like to not eliminate hierarchy, isn't it? It's just removing the democratic oversight and replacing it with some wealth-based authority, right?
No, well, that's certainly not how we would characterize it. First of all, we don't regard the state as some kind of a check on corporate power. We see it as quite the opposite, as a weapon of the highest bidding corporate interests. And we would like to remove that perversion of the market from the scenario entirely, have no state, and instead allow free markets to provide all goods and services in accordance with demand. Where
Okay, okay, but the thing is, okay, I agree that the state can be a weapon. I'm not disagreeing on that. History can prove that anyway. But removing one weapon, it doesn't remove the violence. It just changes who holds it, right? So in your system, who holds the weapon when the disputes arise? That's the question.
there's not someone that has a monopoly on violence. We find that a monopoly on violence is an unparalleled power. If you wield a monopoly on violence, you are able to externalize costs. You're able to make others pay for you to do things that don't at all serve their interests. You can make everybody else's wealth go to serving your interests. And I think that's fundamentally what government is really about, what it's really for, and all it's ever been for, is making everybody else pay for your interests. Your being you, the ruler, who's in charge of the state. Be it a bureaucrat, be it a politician who's elected, be it a king, a dictator, whatever. So in the in
But
the
this,
absence of that, when you don't have a state and you don't have any kind of a monopoly on force, then the service of force, that is rights enforcement, the protection from criminal aggression and so on, and from aggression in general, uh, it tends to be handled by competing private associations of sorts. In the modern world, it would probably look like insurance companies. Historically, it's looked along the lines of surety contract networks, and in medieval Somalia, they were called dia groups. Basically, contractual arrangements where either a company is selling you a service of protection, or you're part of almost like a mutual aid type system of contractual mutual protection. And then when disputes arise between the various groups, such as my security company and your security company have a dispute because I committed a crime against you, those disputes get resolved with whatever arbitrator, whatever you'd say private court, whatever professional adjudicator they mutually choose to bring dispute before, probably pre-agreed to before the crime even happened.
Yes, interesting. It's like what you're describing. It's not a stable marketplace. It's more like anarchy with price tags. That's how I'm seeing it. Because when there's because like when there's no like central authority to resolve the disputes or enforce the limits, the power, or the defaults to whoever can impose the outcome, then that means that's anarchy is. That's dangerous. That is dangerous in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see that dangerous. I do. I mean, because like all anarchic systems, they collapse the same way if you think about it. First, it's the
It
informal
doesn't actually
norm.
sound like anarchy to me. This sounds like I'm kind of I'm pretty familiar with like medieval law and like how like the systems worked. Like I'm not talking like bullshit like fantasy type stuff. I'm talking like actual like genuine shit. This just sounds like it makes sense, but it's good in a way that it's like it's existed before, but under like a different name, and that name is just like any monarchy system. And I understand that might sound batshit, but
That's
if you look at
pluralism.
like for instance, the Holy Roman Empire, that it's like a conglomeration of different interests and economic groups and production. I think the only thing that's really a changing force in that is if like the ruling, quote unquote, is done by like a bloodline or a monetary value. Like I mean,
Yes.
I'm not saying the system wouldn't work. I'm just saying that it would just resemble kind of like
It won't work.
a literal like. I'm not talking like the, oh my god, there's a king and the king's Bezos. Like a genuine, like it would resemble like an
You-
authentic
you-
feudal society.
You're
Which would
talking
work,
about
but-
feudalism, aren't you? That's called
Before we get
feudalism,
into-
isn't it? The lords were corporations, the castles were private compounds, the knights were private security, the serfs were like contract-bound workers, and the law was like aberration controlled by the powerful. It didn't work. It was
and, like,
horrible.
Go in order
The
here.
county line is the surface of control. That's just the security contractors. That's
So before we get into other things, I want to address what's already been said. On the point earlier about it's dangerous, I would contend that the state is far more dangerous. In the last century alone, governments have killed over 250 million of their own people just by democide, not even including acts of war. If you add war, it of course becomes far higher. Governments, not by happenstance, not by accident or by incidentals, but I would argue by their nature, are constantly engaged in coercion and violence and mass destruction against vast throngs of people. And even the most well-intentioned government is not in a position such that they can manage resources efficiently, not in a position to be able to allocate resources in proportion to what people most urgently want and need. And even to this day, we still see tremendous ripples of suffering that emanate from the state. We still see mass incarceration of people for peaceful, victimless crimes. We still see enormous economic artificial impoverishment. People that don't have to be poor rendered artificially poor by way of the state. We see a tremendous deal of, at least abroad, we're still seeing bombings and large scale wars, Russia and Ukraine at war, and Israel and Palestine and all that, and various governmental spats all over Africa and so on, and the Middle East. Not to mention
the thing is, most of those deaths that you mention, they come from totalitarian regimes, like you said, wars, famines, centralized dictatorship. It's not from democratic states with constraints. You're blaming the power abuse, and you're pretending that the absence of a state removes the power. How many people were killed by non-state actors with no accountability? The warlords, cartels, militias, private armies. How many? Because anarcho-capitalism, it doesn't eliminate the violence, it just removes the oversight.
Cartels.
I'm just saying.
The one that I heard was cartels, and cartels are completely dependent on government. If not for the war on drugs and the suppression of legal competition, then you could not have drug cartels. It would simply be a legitimate legal drug industry. You don't see liquor stores going and shooting each other up and executing people in the streets and hanging people and so forth.
Yeah, but they thrive when the state is weak, when it's corrupt, when it's fragmented, not when it's strong, isn't it? The cartels exploit the governments, they do. They don't rely on government authority, they rely on government failure. Big difference.
Well, the stronger the state is, the stronger the cartel is, because in cartel countries, the state works for the cartels. The cartels want the state as strong as it gets because that means the cartel is stronger. And in the United States, we have a version of this as well. And by the way, I wanted to point out, you seem to separate democratic governments from this, but democratic governments are far from any exception. Nazi Germany was brought about through democracy. The Nazis were elected to power. The United States has been one of the most destructive governments in the history of the world in terms of especially foreign destruction, bombing other countries and so forth. I believe the U.S. has bombed more countries than any other state ever has, and the United States is unequivocally democratic. I don't think democracy
I do think that if there was literally no Mexican government, the cartel violence would be maybe a bit above, but somewhat on par with its violence, because you don't need to.
You kind of cut out.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting out.
That much pressure on me. Oh. I think that if there literally was no Mexican government, the cartel wouldn't be as violent because there wouldn't be a need to be as violent. But I think that the violence and that power dynamic, it's more of like where you want to shift the power. Was I cutting out there?
No,
You're good now.
heard that. I believe it is possible to eliminate the power rather than just moving the power. I believe you can actually eliminate it. When I say the power, I don't want to be nebulous. I mean the power to be able to initiate force and coercion against other people with impunity. I don't think anybody should have that power, and I think by free market mechanisms it is possible to eliminate that power.
I disagree with it. I mean, I don't disagree that you can remove the impunity, but I think people by nature are somewhat violent creatures, at least to an extent when given when you get into like a in-group, out-group of where it's like, say, X company or X cartel or X government versus Y group, you're always going to have a tendency towards either violence or disparity. You can make it so that it's like not impunity where, you know, everyone can either like get their say in or retaliate or whatever. But I think that there always is going to be that aspect of things.
I'm not saying you won't always have criminals, but generally speaking, most people are not engaged in violence on any regular basis. Companies are in constant conflict with each other in the form of market competition. Rite Aid is competing with CVS, but you don't see Rite Aid go into and bomb CVS or anything like that. Generally speaking, in the private market, we act pretty civilized. Typically, at least, I'm not talking about black markets. Things get crazy in black markets by perversion of the market through the state. But in normal, legal markets, companies that have conflicting interests do not generally fight each other and act violent. Most of the violence outside of the state in our society is relegated to kind of the bottom rungs of society, such as people that are very traumatized and very poor and low intelligence killing each other.
Exactly.
I don't disagree with that. I think that the main contention I have is that with like the security group model, you're more like the CVS versus Walmart or Walgreens model. You're not going to have the Walgreens or McDonald's PMC. They're just going to have the the security group do that for it. So it's like a obviously I think that's the like that type of security contract detail model would be a lot more easily held accountable just by nature of it not being a state apparatus.
Yeah,
But I think that, you know,
So, on one hand, as you pointed out, they don't have a monopoly on force, which means they can be forcibly held accountable for their actions. And that's huge. But almost equally huge, I think, is the fact that they are accountable to market forces in the sense that these are profit seeking firms. They can't externalize their cost because there is no taxpayer. They have to bear all of their costs themselves. And they're not, generally speaking, providing a greater value to the general consuming public by providing anything less than quiet protection by getting themselves roped into violent conflicts. It imposes greater costs on them. They would have to impose those costs on the consumers. The consumers are not captive. They can take their business elsewhere. So if companies A and B are fighting each other, they're going to lose all their customers to the cheaper companies like C and D and E and so on that are not fighting each other and therefore have much lower costs. And the costs of war don't decrease with customers lost. So when the marginal customers are shaken out, they have to raise prices on the remaining customers. That shakes more of them out. They have to raise prices more. It's a loop that ends in their dissolution as companies.
Making sense, but look, I just want to add on something, right? I'm from the European Union. I think you could tell anyway. It's not anarchic, it isn't, and it's not communist, obviously. It's regulated capitalism. It's mixed. Look, I believe like anarcho-capitalism fails because it can't coordinate complex societies, my friend. But mixed economies, they can do that, and they do it every day, and you know that as well. And what's the result of that? You have competitive markets, you have strong property rights, you have the rule of law, you have consumer protections. You know, think about it. If the state is destructive, why does it work? Or like Germany, for example, right? You know, it rebuilt from the ruins, from using a social market economy, not stateless markets like you're mentioning. A private enterprise, strong unions, public courts, competition law. Or the Nordic countries, for example, right? They rank high on freedom, even higher than the states. You know, they got high innovation, they got high prosperity, they got strong states, my friend. You got to think about that, you know.
I
And
understand.
yeah.
Here's the problem. You mentioned the state coordinating not coordinating markets, but coordinating a complex society efficiently. I don't think the state can coordinate anything efficiently. That is to say, the state lacks the fundamental ingredients to the performance of economic calculation. In order to perform an economic calculation, you need, on the supply side, factor prices, and on the demand side, you need sales metrics. If you lack either or both of those inputs, then you lose the ability to know how to allocate resources in proportion to any quantification of demand, and you have to arbitrarily guess. That might sound like a trivial problem. It's a very non-trivial problem. For example, in the United States, and this similar would be true in all of the European countries, in the United States, we have a substantial problem of lots of people who don't deserve to go to jail going to jail. Even places with lower incarceration, similar is true. Maybe it just takes the form of fines or rehabilitation programs or something. You have a situation where tremendous resources are being spent to punish people for victimless actions. This is pretty true globally. When those who are paying for this either directly disvalue it or do not value it enough to be paying for it voluntarily. They're simply compelled to. Now, the resources that go into doing this could be instead used for, say, actual protection of life and property. In this sense, ends could be satisfied much better. Now, on the private market, we do see the coordination of complex society within the specter of the market all the time. For example, consider all of the complex processes that go between a farmer growing wheat and you eating a bowl of cereal. that came from that wheat, right? There's a tremendous degree of complex coordination when you consider all of the logistics, the trucking and transportation and distributor relationships with the retailers and distributor relationships with the manufacturer relationships with the farmers and so on, and all of the equipment, the factory machinery and the metals mined for that machinery radiates into an extraordinarily complex arrangement. And yet it's an arrangement where everybody's doing it voluntarily of their own volition, simply in the interest of benefiting themselves out of mutual economic self-interest. So I think the spontaneous order that free markets produce actually does not only a good job, but the best job at efficiently coordinating a complex society. Whereas the state, by contrast, with its lack of capacity to allocate anything in proportion to any measurement of what people really need, it utterly fails to do so. And the success that we see across societies in the world, I would attribute to I would assign as in spite of the state, not because of it.
Interesting. Okay, but what happens if one actor in that chain cheats? Let's say dilutes the food, breaks the contracts, or pollutes the land or used force. What's going to happen?
So what I think should happen, I assume that's what you're asking, is not what happens today, but what would happen in my world. What would happen in my world is that actor who is victimizing Party B would be sued by Party B. And the way a lawsuit works is that probably the insurance company of Party B goes to the insurance company of the criminal, Party A, the fraudster or the polluter, whatever he is, and they arrange for a trial in whatever is the agreed upon adjudicator between those two firms. Evidence is presented, a trial is held, maybe a negotiated settlement happens beforehand or something, of course. In fact, that's probably the most likely outcome. But at least in theory, a trial is held, and he's found guilty, and then he's compelled to pay out restitution. Historically speaking, actual anarchic societies of the past have handled justice almost invariably through restorative justice. That is, they've almost completely gone toward restitution, paying out the victim parties, paying them out enough that it's not worth your while to try it in the first place. You still have a deterrent effect, but I would say more importantly, the victim is made whole. And I personally, as a normative value judgment, I think criminal justice should revolve around the victim. And that is what the market demands. That is to say, when it is left up to the market, that tends to be what the market produces, is victim-oriented justice, not, criminal-oriented justice. In fact, in historical stateless societies, they've never had what we think of as criminal law. It's all been civil law. I know that sounds weird. Murder was considered or was treated as a civil offense. I know that sounds very weird and puzzling. But everything was... every legal case in stateless societies was ultimately one party suing another party for damages, or perhaps one party suing another party for, say, custody of their shared child or something like that. But it was always someone suing someone. There was no state's attorney. There was no district attorney or, U.S. attorney or whatever is the European equivalent, to be able to press charges on behalf of a government, because by nature, they didn't have governments. Rather, it's somebody who is victimized, or perhaps a relative of a deceased victim, is suing somebody for wrongdoing. So to answer your question, I think the correct answer to things like fraud and pollution and cheaters, I don't mean cheaters like adultery, but, somebody who's swindling on the market and defrauding people out of their property, is you sue them. And another answer is just economic ostracism. You get a reputation as a bad actor, people won't want to deal with you. Nowadays, it's much easier to reputationally enforce that you have to be good. You have review systems, you have Yelp, you have Google reviews, and, professional reputation matters more now than ever, perhaps. So between tort liability and reputational enforcement / social and economic ostracism, I think you can do a very good job at deterring and dealing with bad actors.
Yeah, I mean, I partially agree. I mean, that's a good way to put it. You're really well spoken there. I mean, okay, obviously, in the early legal systems, like you said, were victim oriented and they were civil. They were, but you need to understand, like, we need to understand why those systems were like that and why they were abandoned, right? Because those systems, they didn't just disappear because the state wanted some sort of power or anything, right? They disappeared because they didn't scale, right? So justice, it depended on the family power, right? The rich families got justice and the poor ones didn't get anything. Blood food
Not sure what
happened,
system you're referencing. If a couple of systems that are along the lines of what I was describing would be the Brehon system is one of them. You're European. That was also European. Was the Brehon system, as well as the Zier system and the American Old West in the parts of it that weren't governed anyway, had systems that were also along such lines. And in all of these cases, it wasn't an internal rise of a state following non-scalability of the systems or collapse of the systems. It was foreign powers taking over these societies. In the case of Ireland, they were taken over by the British in the 17th century under Oliver Cromwell. By the way, that was after the British had spent 520 years trying to take over Ireland and failing, but under Cromwell, at nearly the height of their power, they succeeded. In the case of medieval Somalia, well, they stood up to foreign conquest attempts for over 1,000 years, but they ultimately succumbed to a European international trusteeship in the 20th century, and then the power ended up going to a communist dictator named Siad Barre in the mid-20th century. In the case of the American Old West, it was absorbed into the United States. And then in the case of, I didn't mention Zomia, but that is a fun instance of a similar type system, a stateless society. They sustained their system for over 2,000 years, but were ultimately chipped away quite recently by a combination of the surrounding governments, such as China and Thailand and Vietnam. There are still some parts, by the way, that are remote areas that are stateless, but mostly it has been absorbed into the surrounding countries following the expansion of infrastructure and military reach, that the last century or two have brought about.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like the British rule in Ireland, it wasn't replacing chaos or anything. It was external domination replacing the local order. Colonial conquest is not the internal rule of law, in other words. The British, they didn't just bring some neutral justice. They brought in suppression, they brought in extractive control, unequal law. The power is always going to exist. It's always going to exist. Like the Old West and colonial rule, they were both cases of unaccountable power. It was. If the power takes over when the authority, yeah, but if the authority is weak when the power takes over, then why would abolishing the public authority stop any of that? We learned that the hard way. Europeans learned that the hard way. That's why modern European states, they focus on courts, on rights, on proportional punishment and oversight, not vigilantes or some private enforcement or anything. The old West that you mentioned, it proves my point. Without the public authority, power fills the vacuum, and it's never peace. It's never peaceful. It's never fair.
So there's a book I would recommend. There's a book I would recommend about the Old West called The Not So Wild Wild West by Terry Anderson. Most of what we're fed about the American West is Hollywood entertainment, not reality. In reality, much of the Old West that was functionally stateless, where they were outside the reach of any, they didn't have the town sheriff, they were outside the reach of the federal government, they were outside the reach of any supposed state governments. And they did have the systems I've described. They did have a peaceful order. In the average cattle ranching community in Wyoming or mining encampment in Nevada, for instance, you were not having just, OK Corral style, shoot 'em up. Everybody's fighting like it's Red Dead Redemption or something. That's not what life actually looked like for the average settler in the West. The average settler in the West never saw a gunfight.
Yeah.
Of course.
Actually, I heard about that, but it's a book by Anderson, isn't it?
Yeah, Terry Anderson.
Yeah, I know about that book. I know about it. I think I read that like years ago. Like I skipped through. I didn't read all of it. I don't really read books. I like to listen to podcasts. I like to like just put my earbuds in audio books. But anyway, yeah. But if I'm not mistaken, that book it argues that informal institutions they reduce the violence temporarily in small, low density frontier settings. Doesn't argue that stateless systems scale or remain stable or outperform formal law, does it? Taxation, you know, yeah.
I don't think that it has to scale to an extent. I think it would be better if, like, so here's the thing, right? Multinational, but especially multi-regional type organizations where you have to cover all these fucking bases. All it does is it reduces the average amount of power that you have because it's trying to account for all these fucking edge cases and all of these exceptions when things would be it essentially you're trading off freedom for the ability to have a quote unquote better time, which is a nebulous and vague thing. Like I think a good example is like I think with like in terms of like why we disregarded civil law, it's because it's a lot harder to do on a larger scale, but that doesn't make it a good thing because the having to make a rule against everything, it really does not capture the spirit of the law. I'll say that. Having it's like a loop, it introduces loopholes of where previously you could just hold somebody easily accountable. Like let's say somebody like steals 10 things instead of like the accounted for 9 or over 11 categories. If they steal like a middle amount or they defraud X amount of people that doesn't fall into Y group, they get away with they either get away scot-free or they have to make a new rule up to get this. And I think that if you just had a group of people just be like, okay, yeah, that's clearly wrong. This is why it's wrong. We have these X cases before in civil court. We can it's like we know you're in the wrong. We can just do what ought to be done. With a hard bureaucratic law case, you really do need to go through the ringer to get a new charge up. Like let's say somebody invents a new crime. You really need to go through every step of the process to add a new rule to the list. It's just a whole thing.
But Steve, my G, you said spirit law. What do you mean? What you mean is moral intuition or some sort of cultural norm. It's not enforceable law, my friend. The problem isn't the civil law like spirit. The problem is that the spirit doesn't scale. You know, you can't run a complex society on vibes, on honor codes, or moral sentiment. It's not an insult.
We have for millennia.
It's just it's systems reality. If you want to believe in spirit law, I mean,
to be clear, the system that I promulgate, which I believe is scalable, it isn't such that you simply don't have any kind of formal law. It's that the formal law between me and you is based on whatever arbitrator is agreed to between my insurance company and your insurance company. Whereas the formal law between me and Steve is decided by the arbitrator agreed to between my insurance company and Steve's insurance company. And those two arbitrators, which may be the same one or maybe not, probably not, those two arbitrators, they may well agree on 95% of what their laws are. They may have 95% the same laws, but they may differ in terms of, you know, what percentage is the penalty for theft, or is adverse possession ever considered a legitimate means of property acquisition, and so on. What
you're describing is two football teams, and that the two football teams are saying like, we don't need a referee. We'll just agree on insurance companies and they will decide. But what happens when there's a foul in the last minute and both insurers disagree? I'll answer that for you. The bigger, the richer team keeps playing and calls the agreements. That's leverage. That's not law.
So the bigger and richer team is still accountable to the same contractual mechanisms that any other firm would be accountable to. The bigger and richer team is not able to just impose its will with impunity by force, because they would not have any backing if they refuse to resolve disputes amicably, whereas the other firm, which may be much smaller, but the other firm would have the backing. That is, each has many contractual backup partners, and those partners each require that in order to invoke backup, you have to do everything possible to avoid conflict, i.e., you have to be amenable to court adjudication and abide by the outcomes and so on. You can't just go picking conflicts or refusing to arbitrate. The one that is willing to play by the rules would greatly overpower the one that isn't, even if the one that is far smaller and weaker by itself than the one that isn't.
Yes. Because look, but it's like that's like saying a billionaire is accountable because X might cancel them out. Because like accountability needs a couple of things, right? You need a rule, you need a neutral
Turtle,
enforcer, and you need
World of
consequences
Warcraft.
that can't be ignored.
All three are present in the system that I agree with you, and all three of those things are present in the system that I just described.
So that means accountability is voluntary, that means. And voluntary accountability is not accountability, if you think about it. Because the richer team...
I wasn't implying that it's voluntary. If, let's say, hypothetically, I'm a subscriber of ADT, you're a subscriber of a small mom-and-pop insurance company, and that's where you get your security from, right? I commit some terrible crime against you, and so your small mom and pop security company wants to hold me accountable. But wait, I have the big dog ADT, which is a huge multinational, multi-billion-dollar firm. Let's say ADT, hypothetically, does not want to play by the rules. Let's say they choose to disregard your mom and pop company. And, they're refusing to agree on a court, or maybe they went to court, found guilty, and they're refusing to abide by the outcome and let your company confiscate restitution from me or something. So in this case, your mom and pop firm could then invoke the backing of all of its contract partners and their contract partners and so on, whereas my firm would be high and dry on its own because my firm wasn't doing the contractual requirement of avoiding conflict necessary as a any backup. So my company, even if it's far, would lose in a potential actual violent conflict if one actually arose, simply by virtue of not playing by the rules and therefore relinquishing any and all backup, which yours has not done.
Well, I mean, yeah, but what you've described is not justice. It's escalation between the power blocks. Because you didn't eliminate the violence here.
Reality,
you outsourced it to insurance alliances.
The mechanism that I just described doesn't actually lead to such conflict arising because these are repeat players. They're accountable to the discipline of constant dealings. They understand that this one conflict is not worth their company over. And in a historical context where systems like this have arisen, such as the surety contract networks within the Brehan system, or the contractual arrangements between the Tuaha, or the contractual arrangements of Dia groups, and so on, where such like systems have actually arisen, it doesn't escalate, not generally speaking. I'm not saying never. When it does, it's a much smaller scale than interstate conflict ever is. But as a general rule, it doesn't actually tend to escalate there because all of the players involved understand the nature of the game and they know they have to play by the rules.
It's cold.
In the same sense that if cops are coming to arrest you, you almost certainly know that if you try to shoot it out with them, you're going to lose and it's not going to go well for you. So even though every arrest by government police is potentially going to be a shootout or, somebody's getting killed, that it rarely actually happens, at least as a it's a statistical anomaly.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to put it. I mean, like I know where you're getting at, right? I respect your path, taxation. I really respect it. I do. But what you're describing, I'm sorry, it's not realism. It's utopia that assumes perfect cooperation under the pressure. You know, your system is only going to work if the powerful actors act in good faith, if the insurers always cooperate, if escalations are never going to happen, which obviously are going to happen, the victims always have the leverage, and if nobody opts out when it benefits them. That's not how humans behave when money, survival, and power are on the line, isn't it?
I only
That's not
expect
ideology.
people
That's
to act.
psychology, my friend. You know, I'm sorry, but this is the truth.
We probably agree on a great deal in psychology, and I only expect people to act out of self-interest. And all of the mechanisms that I've just described, they're not dependent on any goodwill. They're not dependent on anybody being moral or virtuous. They're only dependent on people seeking ongoing financial self-interest. Granted, sometimes
Yes.
people are crazy, sometimes people don't care so much about their financial self-interest, but as a usual rule, it tends to win out as a prevailing motivator for human behavior, and it's a pretty good predictor for how people will usually tend to behave, even if not always. Now,
Yes.
conversely, you seem to assign a label of utopian to or something like that to the paradigm I've described, but I think this far more so applies to the idea of an accountable government, the idea of a limited state, a state that is, held accountable such that they're not going to be corrupt. They're acting in good faith consistently. They're not simply answering to the highest bidding lobbyists and corporations. Rather, they're acting in the interest of the people and their constituencies, and voters are all somehow motivated to be very well informed at great personal cost and of time and effort to themselves. They're well informed anyway, despite their vote being a drop in the bucket. I think that
Yeah,
requires
yeah. I mean,
a
look,
lot more.
let's give it. Let's give an example.
Okay.
Like, look, which country tried that? Somalia tried that, right? You know, you remember
Wait
after the
a minute.
after the Soviet collapse. You know about Somalia. Obviously, know about what happened after the Soviet collapse in 1991. You know that was like the closest example we can get, right? Because you had no central authority, you had private security, you had informal courts, you had like clan based, wasn't it? You know, it was like trade continued in the pockets if you think about it, but it failed, didn't it? It failed miserably.
Let's talk about Somalia. I talked about Somalia some in my book. By the way, I would
I've never
not
heard of Open
concede the
Front.
premise that Somalia is the closest real world example we have. I would more so characterize Somalia as a polyarchy than as anarchy. So what happened was in the mid 20th century, you had the takeover of the Siad Barre administration. It was a communist regime. They pretty much nationalized all industry, drove what had previously been a very prosperous country, at least for Africa, into utter guttural poverty. This gave rise to immense desperation, which gave rise to competing warlord states based in their old clan system. And in 1991, they at around the time of the Soviet collapse, they ousted and overthrew the Barre administration government. Now, those competing warlord states, they didn't simply go away when the Barre administration went away. They continued fighting for power. They had already been fighting each other for power, and after they overthrew the Barre administration, they continued the fight, and now they were also fighting for international backing to try to become the new big dog, the new state. And yet, during the period of civil war in Somalia, by a wide deal of metrics, even despite being not anarchy, but polyarchy, and despite being in a civil war, the death rate of Somalia decreased by about 15% in a civil war. Um, Rates of access to food and a lot of other basic goods such as healthcare increased substantially. Their participation in international markets increased a great deal. Exports grew. Their agricultural industry grew. Their access to a lot of things grew. Employment grew. They saw the emergence of 9 nationwide cellular carriers. So pretty much across the board, it was a market improvement for their economy and their society. In fact, a non-anarchist economist, Peter Leeson, did I almost said Liam Neeson. No, it was Peter Leeson in the Journal of Comparative Economics.
Love that guy.
It was Peter Leeson in the Journal of Comparative Economics did a study on Somalia specifically, not coming from the perspective of an anarchist trying to prove his point. He's not an anarchist. But it almost seemed like his study of Somalia started making him think in that direction. I would recommend I can pull it up and put it in the side chat if you're really curious. But at very minimum, and I know this is not a very tall order here, but at very minimum, what happened in Somalia following the collapse of the Barra administration, it demonstrated that a quasi-anarchic polyarchy, even in the midst of a civil war, was a vast improvement. In most ways, it was a vast improvement over the communist government that they'd had before.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it became polycentric. I think that's the word for it, isn't it? Polycentric. And
they had a resurgence of their old Zir system. So Somalia actually used to be true anarchy a long time ago, long before the communists took over. That's part of why Somalia has been so difficult to govern, is because they actually have somewhat of an anarchist culture embedded within their society, going back over 1,000 years. So prior to the international trusteeship of the 20th century, and prior to partial conquests by colonial European governments,
You're breaking up.
I cannot hear you. Sound like a robot.
Most of Somalia had been truly stateless.
Yeah, but
Your microphone is cutting out.
Yeah.
Am I audible now? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. I
You're good now.
Yeah.
So for over 1,000 years, Somalia.
You're cut out again. You're out again.
Around the late 1800s. For a little over 1,000 years, Somalia had been truly stateless.
I don't know. You're still cutting out.
Up until around.
Yeah, but taxation. The fact that they wanted the taxation. The fact that they wanted international backing, like you mentioned before, it proves something really crucial, doesn't it? Even the warlords, that they wanted legitimacy, they wanted enforcement, and that matters. If anarcho-capitalism was stable, why would they seek external authority? Because a polycentric force, it doesn't eliminate the domination, doesn't it? It multiplies the conflicts until only one actor's gonna win. And that's how states are born, my friend. That's political history 101. Your system, what it does, it predicts exactly what Somalia became. Competing in forces with no final arbitrator, with escalation and the constellation of power. That's not freedom. That's pre-state battlefield, my friend.
Look, what I described was...
Yes, what did you describe? Yeah, I heard, right? The Somalia thing, it fails the example. It fails. Did you got any other examples? I mean, any other countries?
We cannot hear you at all, taxation. We cannot hear you at all. We cannot hear you.
You okay? Is everything okay down there? Yeah, but you know, like KingSithis, you understand, right? KingSithis, I mean, like, the Somalia example was a really good example, right? That's why, like, mixed economies, they don't pretend that conflict won't happen. We create
I disagree.
single...
I think that having anarcho-capitalism is the best system.
Well, I mean, okay, for you it could. But do you like Somalia is polycentric, right? You agree with that, right? But it's admitting the problem.
I don't know much about. I don't really know much about Somalia personally, but fundamentally, I'm ethically opposed to a state because it is a forceful extraction. They forcefully extract wealth from innocent people.
All right.
And,
Okay. Let's give another example. Look, Iceland. Let's talk about Iceland, right?
Okay.
The Commonwealth of Iceland, right? This was like the early medieval time. This was like 900s, like 1000s, all right? Let's talk about that, right? Because anarcho, like, there was no king back here. There was no centralized executive. The law was private. The enforcement was outsourced. It was victim-based justice. It was, like we mentioned before. And the people chose the chieftain, which they called Goya. I think it was something like that. Goya
Gotai or
right?
something like Gotai or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't pronounce it, but you know what I mean, right? Gotar. Yeah. So what happened over time? The chieftains, they accumulated power. The alliances formed. Violence happened. The feuds, they replaced the contract.
They chose their chieftains, or they had some element of democracy in their system, which eventually corroded it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So
But that's the issue with. That's an issue of statism, not anarcho-capitalism. Had they stuck to anarcho-capitalism, they would be prosperous, but eventually collapsed because they went towards statism.
Yeah, but the Icelandic Commonwealth, it didn't have the democracy that we understand today. There was no like universal suffrage. There was no.
No, not like that. It was I get what you're saying, but the head of, I forgot how it was voted for, but I guess there was like a head of a group that was voted for by the leaders of the people who were there, and because of that, it sort of corrupted over time. So I think that fundamentally, like, I think, having any sort of statist system is always going to lead to criminal organizations rising.
But voting for a leader doesn't mean democracy. You need public authority, you need universal participation, you need enforceable outcomes for it, right?
Well, if you have
Commonwealth,
if you vote, I mean, democracy is voting, so.
Well, I mean, yes, it is, but I mean, I'm talking about the Icelandic Commonwealth, right? That's why I gave an example.
I mean, it wasn't a full-on
right?
democracy in the sense that like everybody got to vote for their voting leaders, but it did have elements of it, which kind of screwed it up over the years.
I guess, but they had like these private power brokers. They did, I guess, but they weren't state officials. Like the chiefs, they weren't like state officials or anything. There was no
that small element eventually corrupted it to the point where it eventually turned into statism.
I mean, yeah, I think eventually it did. Eventually it did corrupt. I mean, it lasted for like, what, 200 or 300 years or something. It didn't last long, I guess. But,
also,
so
those people weren't even
also
they weren't even ANCAP, those people, right? I mean, imagine if they weren't ideologically ANCAP.
Yeah,
it would never change.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to I'm trying to understand like this view of yours, but it's like
I know it's
like
hard.
It doesn't work out.
I mean, I don't expect you to understand it in one day. I mean, but like I'm here to I can answer whatever you want to know.
Yeah, I mean, look, like. You talked with the other guy before, you remember, right? Dark Karl Marx, the anarcho-communist. You remember him, right?
Yeah, I remember him. He's pretty alright.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I have a debate coming up with him on Saturday. I'm going to debate him on Saturday on this server. Because, like, I'm really against the communist. I am. The communists. I'm, like, really. So, like, you guys are, like, have, like, completely different views, right? Like, obviously, like, 100% different views. I'm surprised you didn't belch at him, like. But...
honestly, I just try to keep it chill. Yeah. At the end of the day, like I'm here to enjoy life. I mean, I'm an ANCAP, and ANCOMs and communists are definitely, I disagree with them a lot, but I try to have good discussions with people. I try not to argue.
Yes, like good faith. Obviously, you need to have good faith. I understand that, obviously, but I mean, like. In reality,
I think they mean. I think communists they mean well. I think they're just wrong.
I agree. Communists are wrong. I like 100% agree. I don't like commies. Like it's affected my country before in the past, Cyprus, and we've got a big commie party here. I don't like the commies. You know, commies are wrong about abolishing the
Yeah,
market.
like he was trying
and the
to
price
he was trying to
signal.
like convince me that the action axiom isn't true, which makes no sense to me. He was saying it's unscientific. 'Cause it's I guess it was unfalsified.
Which one?
The action axiom.
The action axiom.
Essentially,
I don't know
that
what
man
is.
acts. A man acts.
Demand. I don't know what.
Is an indemonstrable first principle of your belief or logic system that you can't prove to be true, but you believe anyway because it gives you good feelings.
Oh yeah.
You can't
yeah.
prove that man
Yeah.
acts.
You can never, if you can prove an axiom, it's no longer an axiom.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess, but I don't see anything wrong with the action axiom. It makes perfect sense. Man acts. I mean, I'm acting right
Can you
now.
describe the action axiom?
Well, that man acts.
Can you give me an example?
Well, I'm acting right now. I'm talking to you.
Okay, so by refusing to be a catatonic like patient in a mental ward where you do nothing, this is an axiom that you've adopted?
I don't understand the question.
A catatonic means you're like comatose but still conscious. Like you're aware of everything around you, but you just refuse to move and breathe or think or whatever.
Yeah. Like a coma, right?
It's like a
I mean,
a
using
wake
your
coma.
thinking would still be an action.
But you're okay. So it's only your awareness, and that's purely just your sympathetic nervous system. You're not even like your inner monologue isn't even firing.
I'm still thinking, right?
Well, kind of like you're reactively
Well, then I'm acting.
thinking. Okay, so I guess what that is that it's no longer an axiom. If you're going to boil it down to that extent, it's more or less just a descriptor of like your experience, which is not an axiom. An axiom is a principle.
Well, that's what they call it.
Principles can't be.
They call it the action axiom.
Tell me who called it this. I'm gonna like send pictures of my cock to their mother.
I don't think they're alive anymore.
I'll find a way.
Well, good luck with that.
Who said
But no,
this?
I mean, Mises was the one that sort of came up with the whole like praxeology, which explains like, which tries to explain, the study of human action essentially, but it tries to explain why people act, why man act, like why do we do things.
I just looked into it, bro. Oh my fucking god, dude. It's literally Austrian economics. It's not even using the term axiom in like the philosophical sense. Like.
Well, like I said, I told you it's that's what they call it.
It's a catchphrase. It's not a. Okay. All right. I concede.
What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah. So like the commies, they fail the axiom of economic calculation and incentives, right? To just keep it basic here, right? They failed it miserably. They do.
I can't see why
this
people would
axiom-
disagree that man acts. That doesn't make sense. I feel like it makes sense to say that man acts.
No, it does. It's just not an axiom. It's a different word.
Well, either way, I feel like I believe that man acts. Like it doesn't. It makes sense. It doesn't make sense to say.
I'm not saying he doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing.
I know,
with
but
you, I'm
that's.
just saying
I
the
know.
word
I know.
axiom
But
is
Karl
hard.
Marx didn't agree with me.
Well, Karl Marx is a stupid piece of shit. He's fucking dead.
Yeah, he didn't even go to his
No,
fucking
not
father's
that
funeral. His
guy.
father-
Not the
he's
fucking
fucked up.
actual Karl Marx. I said Dark Karl Marx. The guy is another guy.
Oh yeah. yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not actual
But look,
Karl
look.
Marx.
If you say
King, guys, communism, it fails the calculation axiom, and anarcho-capitalism fails the enforcement axiom. You see the difference?
No,
That's
it
where
does
you guys
not.
failed. And the
No, it does
enforcement,
not.
it does.
Read. You gotta read Hoppe,
does,
bro.
but-
You gotta read Hoppe.
What's Harper?
Also, and also the economic calculation problem also applies to the state when it comes to the enforcement of rights too. You do realize that, right?
I mean, yeah, okay, yes, if you think about it, but the thing is that
So if you privatize rights enforcement, I mean, obviously they will have the price signals that
It's
will allow them to
information.
make. They'll have the price signals will allow them to make those decisions more likely than otherwise.
Exactly, but it's information, isn't it? The prices don't coerce anyone. They signal scarcity, preference, and trade-offs. You know, all of that
I
stuff.
never said that. I know that. I'm merely saying.
Yeah.
I'm merely saying that economic calculation problems applies to the state when it comes to when it comes to this defense. And if we theoretically, we could privatize defense and make it more efficient than it would be otherwise.
I mean, you can try to privatize it, I guess. But
Well, I mean, there's many of theoretical ways
because
that people have brought up, like one taxation of theft has got up with a lot of a good idea. He has a lot of he has a really excellent section of his book where but there's also Hoppe. He has a book called The Private Production of Defense. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not
really
sure
good.
about that. I'm not sure about that book, but I mean, like, look. Let's give an example, right? Electricity, right? The markets, what do? They calculate how much electric costs, the supply, the demand, the prices, the peak hours, all that boring stuff, right? So now imagine a power company that decides to cut your electric, even though you paid for it. So is the price signal going to turn your power back on? No, it won't, right? The enforcement is going to put it
No,
back
but
on.
it tells you.
The price.
But enforcement doesn't incentivize people to give people power. It's prices that do. What's going to incentivize them to shut off the power if they're making money by giving people power? That doesn't make any sense.
But yet the price that it does look. It's not the price. It's not the market. It's the enforced. Like, look, calculation. The economic calculation.
You could privatize,
happen, right?
That's assuming that the only way you can have enforcement is through a state, that's not true.
A price can tell me I should pay like £500. It can't force me to give you something, right? If I take your money and walk away with
but money
the price doesn't stop me.
incentivizes people to provide goods and services, right? Because when higher prices lead to higher profits than would be otherwise. So if there's a higher price for a new good, providing that price will yield you higher returns, thus incentivizing you to provide that in the market.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah.
So that could also be
choices.
Yeah, so that could be true for a private market in defense too, right?
Yeah.
All right.
If I were to took your money, then raising the price, it doesn't undo the harm, doesn't it? The prices adjust the behavior before violation. In other words,
No.
Prices the behavior after a violation.
No, prices are signals. They merely tell you what people want and at what quantity.
Yeah, okay, I agree that prices. I'm not doubting that. Definitely, prices are signals. I agree with you there.
Okay, so
And
then
signals are not
do you
enforcement.
agree
A
with me
signal
that
tells you?
Do you agree that the ECP also applies to the state as well when it comes to the privatization of when it comes to defense?
The ECP, the enforcement applies to the state. Yeah, but
yeah,
the
obviously.
difference
So if you privatize that sector of the state, it would be more efficient than otherwise.
Okay, but yes, I agree with you. But the difference it's not whether the enforcement exists or not. The difference is who controls it and how it's constrained.
But if there's
isn't it?
so if you have multiple competing firms, you do realize that having multiple competing firms in a market is more efficient than having one monopolistic system, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree. Yeah, we not just one. Obviously, we need more with you.
If we privatized, defense, and we had competition as opposed to one monopolistic system, it would clearly be more efficient than having this monopolistic system that has to deal with the economic calculation problem.
Well, okay. Now, look, Defense isn't a normal efficiency problem.
Like,
it's a coordination and an escalation problem.
Like, what's so different about defense that makes it so that it is impervious to the ECP?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. Actually, that's a really good question. Now, defense and the enforcement, they use force. They do, but they solve different problems, obviously, right? So the defense, it protects against the external threats, it does, but the enforcement resolves the internal disputes. But both of these require final authority. So the enforcement
but that's not
requires,
even true, even in the real world. I mean, where in the world do you find a final arbiter?
Yeah, I can give you examples. I can. Yeah, like for example, Libya. For example, Libya after like 2011. You know, Libya, if you think about it, it's a real world case of multiple defense providers. If you think about it, you know, they've got the central authority collapsed. You had
No, I'm
many
asking you,
militias.
could you give me an example of a final arbiter in the world as it is right now? Because you just said we need a final arbiter to settle decisions, because if we have multiple competing firms, you know, it will collapse. So could you give me a situation in the real world where you do see a final arbiter? Because I don't know anywhere in the world where we see any final arbiter.
Well, I can't think of a final. No, we don't have a final one. That's obvious. That's what you don't want, obviously, as an anarcho-capitalist, obviously, right? Because
So
the
you
final
don't need
arbiter
a.
is
So
like,
also, what is? I mean, we have anarchy among states, do we not? I mean, there are multiple. I mean, we have polylogism against multiple states, right?
well, we do. I mean, like, if you, it depends on where we're talking about. You're giving some really good questions, actually. I like your questions, right? Like, the international system is anarchic if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
It
I mean,
only
if you
works
thought
with-
of
yeah, it
like,
only wo- yeah.
not to interrupt, but you know, like if you looked at every state to be like its own person, it would basically be an anarchic. Every person would be its own anarchy, essentially, and each system has its own laws and has its own ways of settling disputes. And more often than not, we're not. Most states are not in war with each other. More often than not. I mean, there are some edge cases, but again, those are edge cases. It's actually more likely that states are less likely to fight with each other. So couldn't this also be true for, say, multiple competing private rights enforcement? I mean, would you be like, oh, having multiple states that compete with each other, oh my God, that's terrible. We should have a one world government, you know, to make it so that we just get rid of any possibility that there'll be a breakdown.
I mean, yeah, like a new world order kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like,
I mean, I've thought
you know,
about
like
it,
an
right? I mean,
Illuminati.
but yeah, but I mean, I don't want a one stage government. I want a layered system where power is split, where it's constrained, where it's constantable, you know? Because like a mixed system like in Europe, like what we have here in Europe, you know, it divides us. We've got markets, we've got courts, we've got regulators, we've got local government, we've got constitutions. But anarcho-capitalism, if I'm not mistaken, is creating this one-stage system. That's how I like to put it. Because everything collapses into market power and private enforcement, doesn't it? So whoever
Not if they
controls
have agree
the
with
force
each
and the
other.
capital controls everything. But who will be the president? Who will be the
There'll be
leader?
no
You know,
president.
there'll be God.
There will be no leader.
There'll be no president.
There'll be no. That's like asking who's the president of the world, right? Each company has its own CEO or, you know, person who runs it, and the same way as every own country has its own leader, right?
Yes.
It would,
Yeah.
but
the
difference is
yeah.
it would be multiple private competing firms competing with each other to provide you the best service. And based on what you buy and what you don't buy and at what price and what quantity, they can make decisions. They could coordinate what you actually need and what you actually what is best actually needed in terms of like, you know, to defense. They could see if somebody's paying more people are paying a lot more for defense in a certain area. Well, then they could send more officers in that area to because those price signals allow them to make better decisions, you know. But with the state, it's all done arbitrarily.
But the thing is, right? That's not freedom. That's corporate feudalism. Because
It's not feudal.
the CEO,
Feudalism, but a feudalism is when a person at the top conquers a land and then forces everybody under it to follow its laws. But that's not what I'm describing, you know. Here, this is a private company.
Yeah, but it's private companies. But you said that they have like their own CEOs, right? There's no leaders. You said there's no prime ministers. There's no president.
But every
so it's gonna be
company
like all
has
these CEOs.
most companies have CEOs.
They do. So, but CEOs are not accountable to citizens. They're accountable to shareholders. So what
Yeah, but
happens to
those-
people who are profitable?
Yeah, but
That's
those
the issue, you know?
shareholders,
Like-
they are, yes, you are correct. They are accountable to the shareholders, but how do they give the shareholders what they want? They sell goods and services to their customers. And if their customers don't give them the money, if they don't do a good job in terms of providing defense, then they could move to another company that will. And that incentivizes them to give the best service that they can. Whereas under a status system, the state doing a bad job can actually often be a justification to give them more money, because then they can argue, oh, we were actually underfunded.
Yes, because look, I want to ground this in lived reality, right? Because in Cyprus, I've got a car business here, a seasonal car business operating in the summer only, because it's a seasonal touristic spot, right? So I sell goods and services to my clients as well. But the customers, they choosing my cars, it doesn't mean that they consent to me to ruling them, right? So buying from me is a market relationship. It's not a political one. If a customer doesn't like my prices, they walk away and go to another car rental company place. If they damage my car, then the law steps in. I take their passport, obviously, and until they can pay me off, they're not going to get their passport back, obviously. If I abuse my power, I don't get to write the rules, right? I'll get in trouble. So the markets, they express preference, but they don't grant the authority to it. So selling the cars that I have right now, it doesn't give me the right to set the laws or to enforce the punishment or to decide the rights or to override my consent, right? So
Yes, but
the
if those
CEOs
people
rule-
are
Yeah,
those
yeah.
people are the people, when you're talking about a private rights enforcement firm, the people are being like, hey, I am they're signing agreements before they go to get protection, that they will follow a certain the laws that that private rights enforcement puts down, and if they don't, then that private rights enforcement agency will refuse service to them.
Exactly. Signing an agreement, it doesn't make it legitimate authority, doesn't it, KingSithis? So in my business, in
Well,
Cyprus,
it does,
the customer
because
signed the contract, right?
if you don't follow that law, if you don't follow the law, then they will refuse service to you, and you won't have any protection. That incentivizes individuals to follow the rules. And if they violate another person's rights, and you don't have rights enforcement agency backing you up, and you violate another person's rights who does have rights enforcement, that rights enforcement agency will come after you and take you to court and take you to prison if you are found guilty. And you won't have
Exactly,
anyone
and I
be
mean-
able to represent you.
I mean,
So
look,
there is
that's how
authority.
insurance works.
There is that.
Yeah.
That is an authority.
There's always going to be an authority. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like, that's why
It's
I
just
disagree
the
with
difference-
Karl Marx. But yeah.
The difference is that there's, in a private market, they could respond to price signals and be more efficient, and there's competition that holds them in check, right? So if you're not doing a good job, you can move to another firm. Whereas under a state, they're doing a bad job. Well, you're stuck with it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, look, I think we're actually more agreeing than disagreeing. You know, I like that. You know, the competition in the private market is great for prices, for quality, for innovation. You know, that's how my business has skyrocketed as. But it's just seasonal. You know, in the winter, there's no work in the winter, right? But competition is, you know, for selling the cars. It's not for deciding who has the rights or for the protection. I love that, but I can't call myself a full-blown capitalist either, because, you know, like, I mean, I can't. I'm not part of the 1% or anything, so I can't really say I'm a full-blown capitalist or anything. But I'm definitely not a commie. No way, I'm not a commie. But
Well, that's
like,
good.
I love the yeah. And like I said, on Saturday, I'm having a debate on this server with Karl Marx. If you want to come and watch, you want to come, I'm going to humiliate him. I mean, like, I've talked with him before as well. Like, he chats, he talks a lot. He does. He's knowledgeable. He is. I'm not saying he's stupid or anything, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. He is. Let's see what's going to happen.
Well,
But yeah, man.
good luck to you
I
on
watched,
that.
yeah. Thanks, man. I watched you. I did on checked out your YouTube channel as well, bro. You got good content, bro. I check you out. I do.
Thank you. Thank
and,
you.
Yeah.
I've got some new YouTube
and,
videos coming out soon. I'm working on
Yeah,
some.
I'm watching, and especially the video of you. There was a video of you, like you said, you're trying to abolish the labor theory value thing, which I
Yeah.
found really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll check out your videos, man, in the future, bro. I'm gonna add you on here if you wanna add me on as well, bro. I'll pop down every now and then. I do. But yeah, like I said, if you wanna come and watch the debate, man, on Saturday, I'd love to see you there, bro.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But
Hope you guys
yeah, I mean,
record
I
it.
want to actually. Yeah, I think it's gonna be recorded. It's gonna go on like on the PNR server on YouTube or something. I know Talico. I don't know if you know Talico on this. So I think he's gonna record it. He's my friend. Maybe he might record it.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's see what's gonna happen because I might come and like get some more ideas from you as well before the debate because like what to expect from these anarcho communists and everything because you might understand more about that. I mean, I'm well educated in the topic, I am, but you know, let's try.
What
try to find his,
specifically
like,
are you
weak
guys
spot.
debating about? Just communism is not good.
I'm gonna put it on the side chat here. Let me put the folder on the side chat. If I can find the event. I think they took the. I don't know where it is, but you can find it on the events. The topic is communism. He's gonna take the affirmative. He said that communism it's more humane and it's more stable compared to human markets. So I'm taking the negative on that, obviously. He's taking the affirmative on that. He's going to somehow try to encourage everyone that communism is more stable and more humane. Crazy as it may sound, but
we'll see how that works out for him. Personally,
yeah,
I'm
not
very
sure what he's gonna do.
anti-communist. I think communism is very dumb and evil and immoral.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you on that. I mean, I don't know if I should mention the Black Book of Communism, but he said, "Go put it up." I know, but I think it's flawed. I think he's going to say that book is flawed and stuff like that because you know we all know how many people died during communism regimes. Like 100 million people died. Right? It was crazy, man. Like
Well,
people actually like really want a system like this. You know, like
definitely want to bring up
crazy.
the ECP. Definitely want to do
The
that.
ECP.
The economic calculation problem.
Oh yeah. Shall I bring that up?
You probably should, yeah. But if you're going to bring that up, I would definitely watch my YouTube video on it, as well as going deeper and actually reading Mises' book, or listening to Mises' economic calculation in the socialist commonwealth, or the use of knowledge in society. I could send you those if you want, but.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. If you can like send me that on my DMs, I'll really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll look into that. I will. Yeah.
That will basically make
yeah,
it so
like,
that make it easier for you to understand.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, send that to me on my DMs, man. I really appreciate that, man. I'll look into that. Well, because it's not just because of the debate, right? I mean, I want to learn it myself as well, as a business owner myself. You know, like I want to like personally like learn about this as well. I do. I don't really have time to sit down and read books, but I mean, if there's like an audio book or something, just put my earbuds in, like whilst I'm working and doing my stuff, just listen to it, if it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a YouTube
man, I
video
appreciate
on it.
that, man. Yeah. Yeah, so send me the YouTube video as well. Like, send me your video in there as well. I'll check it out as well, man. And I'll pop down maybe later on if I see you around. I'll pop down in your VC and we can continue our conversation. All right, my G.
Yep, have a good one, man.
All right, man. Have a fantastic day, man. Great. Take care.
You too. That was a nice guy. Alright, I'm gonna call it a night though. But it was fun.
Hello, chat.
Hello.
What's up, big bro? What you doing?
I was actually about to get off.
Oh, my fault. I'm just trying to find interesting DCs.
No problem, man. Have a good night.
You too, bro.
Have a good night, everyone.